I left Ireland before quite a lot of you were born. That was in 1982. And one of the things that I remember about that year was the murder of a young man in Fairview Park. His name was Declan Flynn. He was 31 years of age. He worked for Air Rianta. And he was attacked in that park, and he was beaten to death and died in his own blood. The people who committed that crime were brought to trial, but the judge at the time said that that it could no way be considered murder. And so they got off and they walked free, those men, those criminals. And that was really upsetting to me, because I thought about that young man and I thought about his last minutes on this earth, and that he was being killed for something that he felt. 1993 seems like a long time ago to some people, but it's not that long ago, because in 1993 homosexuality was decriminalized. That's a kind of a technical word, decriminalized, but when you think about it, you were a criminal because you felt something. If you loved somebody else, that made you a criminal. And let's say you were one of those unfortunate people who was beaten up because they were gay. What did you do? Could you go to the police and say, I was beaten up because I was gay? Then they would arrest you because you were a criminal. So 1993 is not that long ago. And whether we like to admit it or not, there is still homophobia about the place. And there is a concept that has to do with identity, and I think Mannix referred to it earlier on, and it's the concept of othering. The idea that if an individual or a group of people do not meet certain societal norms, they are perceived as being different. And one of the most effective ways you can weaken or eliminate that individual or that group is to deprive them of their human and civil liberties. We pride ourselves on being a compassionate and open, caring society. And in order to be that, in order to claim that, we have to care about all of our citizens equally. And I think that the message that if this vote is carried on the 22nd of May, it will send a powerful message, not just to our brothers and sisters in the gay and transgender world here in Dublin, but it will also send a message to other minorities who still are discriminated against and who are still othered by the majority of the population. And I'm speaking for groups like the homeless, the immigrants, the travellers, people that we regard as not being as good as or different to ourselves. And that's one of the reasons why I think that this vote will be profoundly important for the society, because that message will be sent out to say that we are all equal. We're not a thing, we're not a label. We are all a mixture of emotion and love and faults and virtues. We are human. And that's why they call them human rights. And to pass this law doesn't just send a message here in Ireland, but it sends a message to the rest of the world that we are a society that is open and embracing and ready to take its place among the civilized, really civilized countries of the world. And if we think that that doesn't have a resonance, think about what happened in Africa a few years ago where people were killed. There are people being killed at this moment in other countries because they are different, because they are gay. there have been talks about, you know, how it's going to affect children. Well, I lived quite a while in Los Angeles and New York, and I know many gay couples. And here's what I know from them. Those children are brought up with love. And when a child is brought up with love, that is the greatest gift that you can give a kid. And to say somehow that being brought up by same-sex parents does a child any kind of damage or disadvantage is to insult the people who have been brought up beautifully by same-sex couples. It also indicates that just because you're brought up by a mother and father means that you're going to be a totally well-rounded, normal, you know, straight individual. I know a lot of people who had that advantage, so-called, and they didn't turn out to be so amazing, including myself. Yeah, that's all I want to say. Here's the important thing. In Tammany Hall, they used to say that the most important thing was getting out the vote. So we have to get out the vote. Everybody that you meet, tell them it's not just important to feel, it's not just important to be sentimentally pro this idea. You have to walk the walk and get out there to the ballot box and say yes.